I still think about that night every time I drive on a highway after dark. This happened in October of 2021 when I was 28 years old. At the time, I had just started working as a regional sales representative for a hardware supply company. My job had me driving across Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia almost every week. Most days were simple. I'd visit hardware stores, talk with managers, check inventory, and drive to the next town. I actually enjoyed it. Being alone on the road never bothered me. That week, I'd been working in Charleston, West Virginia. My last meeting ran longer than expected, and by the time I loaded everything back into my SUV, it was already after 9:30 p.m. I had two choices: book another hotel or drive the last couple of hours home. I chose to drive. It seemed like an easy decision at the time. Looking back, I wish I had stayed in Charleston. The rain had stopped, but the roads were still wet. Fog covered parts of the hills, and traffic became lighter with every mile. Around 10:45 p.m., my GPS suddenly froze. The map stayed on the screen, but my location stopped moving. I restarted it. Nothing. It only said, "Searching for GPS signal." A few minutes later, every radio station turned into static. I switched stations over and over. Nothing but static. The silence inside my SUV suddenly felt uncomfortable. About 15 minutes later, I saw a green highway sign. Exit 117. My GPS had mentioned exit 118 before it lost signal, so I figured I had simply missed my exit. I took exit 117 without thinking much about it. The moment I left the interstate, everything changed. The road narrowed to 2 lanes. The streetlights disappeared. There weren't any restaurants, gas stations, or houses, only trees. The farther I drove, the darker it became. After almost 10 minutes, I realized I hadn't passed another vehicle, not one. Then I noticed a rusty mailbox beside the road. There wasn't a driveway. There wasn't a house, just the mailbox. The number on it was 117. It seemed odd, but I kept driving. A mile later, I passed another mailbox. Same faded paint, same number. I frowned, but convinced myself it was just a coincidence. A few minutes later, I saw what looked like someone standing beside the road. I slowed down. As my headlights reached it, I realized it was only a scarecrow tied to an old fence post. I laughed at myself. Then I checked my rearview mirror. Behind the scarecrow, between 2 trees, stood another figure. This one wasn't attached to anything. It didn't move. I stared for several seconds before telling myself it was probably a tree stump. When I looked again, it was gone. I drove a little faster after that. About 10 minutes later, I reached a small crossroads with a flashing yellow traffic light. An old gas station sat on the corner. Half the windows were boarded up. The gas pumps looked like they hadn't worked in years. Still, one light was on inside the office. I pulled into the gravel parking lot. The moment I stepped out, I noticed how quiet everything was. No wind, no insects, no distant traffic, just silence. Then, crunch. It sounded like someone had stepped on loose gravel behind me. I turned around immediately. Nobody. Trying to ignore it, I walked toward the office. Just before I reached the door, I looked down. Fresh, muddy footprints led inside. Only one set. There weren't any footprints leading back out. I pushed the door open. A small bell rang above me. Behind the counter sat an older man wearing thick glasses and a faded brown jacket. He looked at me calmly. "You look lost." "I took the wrong exit," I said. "I'm trying to get back to Interstate 64. He nodded slowly. "I figured." I asked if my phone would get service around there. "No." What about directions? He unfolded an old paper map and pointed to a narrow road. Stay on this road until you reach an iron bridge. I nodded. Then he quietly added, cross it once. He looked directly at me. But don't cross it twice. I waited for him to explain. He didn't. Instead, he asked, has anyone been following you? No. Good. He folded the map and handed it to me. If headlights appear behind you, he paused. Don't stop. I thanked him and walked back outside. Before getting into my SUV, I looked through the office window. The light was off. The chair behind the counter was empty. I'd been outside less than 20 seconds. There was no way he could have left that quickly. I got into my SUV and drove away. The road became even narrower. Tree branches hung over both sides like a tunnel. The fog grew thicker. About 10 minutes later, my phone suddenly buzzed. 1 bar of service. Before I could call anyone, the signal disappeared again. Then headlights appeared behind me. They stayed about a quarter mile back, never getting closer, never falling behind. I slowed down. They slowed too. I sped up. They matched my speed exactly. The old man's warning echoed in my head. Don't stop, so I didn't. After several minutes, the headlights vanished without turning off. They were simply gone. I took a deep breath and kept driving. Then I rounded the next bend. My heart dropped. The same gas station stood in front of me. Same flashing yellow light. Same broken pumps. Same boarded windows. I'd been driving in a straight line for over 30 minutes. There was no way I should have ended up back there. This time, someone was standing beside one of the pumps. A man wearing a reflective highway vest. His hood covered his face. He wasn't waving. He wasn't moving. He was just standing there, watching the road. Every instinct told me to keep driving. As I passed him, I looked through my side window. He never turned his head. He stayed perfectly still until he disappeared into the darkness behind me. I drove another 15 minutes before I found the iron bridge the old man had mentioned. It was old, narrow, and covered in rust. There wasn't another car in sight. I slowly crossed it. Halfway across, something slammed against the underside of my SUV. The sound was loud enough to make me jump. I stopped on the other side and got out with my phone's flashlight. There was nothing underneath. No broken branches. No damage. Nothing at all. When I stood up, I noticed fresh footprints in the mud beside the bridge. They weren't mine. They led toward the woods. Then they simply stopped, not turned around, not continued. Just stopped in the middle of the mud. A cold feeling ran through my body. I got back into my SUV, locked the doors, and started driving again. Less than 5 minutes later, I saw the iron bridge for the second time. Less than 5 minutes later, I saw the iron bridge for the second time. I slammed on the brakes. That wasn't possible. I'd been driving in a straight line. There weren't any intersections, no side roads, and nowhere I could have accidentally turned around. I sat there staring at the bridge for almost a minute. Then I remembered what the old man had said. Cross it once, don't cross it twice. For the first time that night, I actually listened. I made a U-turn and drove back the other way. About 10 minutes later, my phone suddenly picked up 1 bar of service. I grabbed it and called 911. A dispatcher answered almost immediately. I think I'm lost, I said. I'm somewhere off Interstate 64. She asked for my location. I don't know, my GPS stopped working. What road are you on? I have no idea. She stayed calm and told me to keep driving while she tried to locate my phone. Then the call filled with static. I heard her say, "Sir, is someone else in the vehicle with you?" My heart skipped. "No." There was silence. Then she said, "Our system is picking up 2. The call disconnected. My screen went black. I looked in the rearview mirror. Headlights, the same ones, still the exact same distance behind me. I pressed harder on the gas. They matched my speed perfectly. Every turn I made, they made. Then, without warning, they disappeared again. I rounded another curve and saw an old white pickup truck parked across the road. Its engine was running. The driver's door was open. No one was inside. I slowed to a stop about 50 feet away. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then, the driver's door slowly closed by itself, not slammed, just clicked shut. Every light on the truck went dark. At the exact same moment, 3 slow knocks hit my driver's window. Tap, tap, tap. I turned so fast I nearly hurt my neck. A man stood inches from the glass. He wore the same reflective highway vest. His hood covered most of his face. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He simply stared at me. I threw the SUV into reverse. The tires spun on the wet road before finally catching. When I looked back again, he was gone. I hit the gas and swerved around the pickup. As I passed it, I looked inside. The seats were muddy. There were fresh footprints across the floor, but there wasn't a single person in the truck. I kept driving without slowing down. A few minutes later, my GPS suddenly came back to life. The screen flashed. Proceed to Interstate 64. This time, I didn't question it. I followed every direction exactly. 5 minutes later, I saw the interstate. Streetlights, traffic, semi-trucks. I have never been happier to see another car. I didn't stop until I reached a busy truck stop nearly 40 miles away. Inside, I told the cashier what had happened. When I mentioned exit 117, she looked confused. She asked me which county. I admitted I didn't know. She pulled up a state highway map hanging behind the counter. "There isn't an exit 117 around here," I argued with her. "I took it myself." She shook her head. "The exits go from 116 to 118. The next morning, after getting a few hours of sleep, I called the West Virginia Department of Transportation. The employee I spoke with confirmed the same thing. That section of Interstate 64 had never had an exit 117. Not now, not in the past. I spent the next few weeks trying to convince myself that exhaustion had caused everything. Then I remembered my dash cam. I pulled the memory card and watched the footage. Everything looked normal until I left the interstate. The moment I passed the exit 117 sign, the recording turned into gray static. Not for a few seconds, for almost 2 hours. The audio still worked. I could hear my engine, the windshield wipers, my breathing getting faster. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. 3 slow knocks, exactly like the ones on my window. A second later, a man's voice quietly said, "Wrong turn." The video returned for a single frame before ending. My SUV was parked outside the old gas station. Standing beside my driver's door was the man in the reflective vest. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking directly into the dash cam. I froze the image and zoomed in. His face was too blurry to recognize. But one detail stood out. There was no reflection of him in the driver's window, only the gas pumps behind him. I deleted the footage that same day. I didn't want to keep watching it. It's been almost 5 years now. I still drive for work. I still travel through West Virginia from time to time. But I never drive those roads after dark. If my GPS loses signal, I pull over somewhere with people and wait. And every once in a while, usually just after midnight, my navigation screen flashes a route that disappears before I can read it. I always catch the same words: take exit 117. There has never been an exit 117. At least, that's what everyone keeps telling me.